What's up, guys? It's Flipman Dan. We are here in my new house and it's very exciting. It's a little bit echoey in here, I know, but there's no furniture and there's nothing really in the house except for the paint on the walls and the new floor that we had installed. But it's been a long journey to get to this point, and I'm a first-time home buyer, and I wanted to share a little bit about my experience with you guys to hopefully inform you guys about what to expect and kind of when to know when you're ready to purchase your first home. Back about 5 or 6 years ago, I thought, hey, I'm ready to buy a home. I had lived with roommates up to that point, and I thought, you know what, I think I'm ready to pull the trigger. I don't want to pay another person's mortgage. I want to start paying my own. So I had a little bit of money saved up to that point. I think it was anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000. I went to a bank and I sat down with the teller, and they told me, you know what, we could get you potentially approved for some of these mortgages, one of the mortgages that you had in mind for a single family home. You know, it wasn't going to be anything great because they were approving me, they said, for around $275,000 to $300,000. Now in Phoenix, that's not going to get you much. Back then, it probably would have got me something, but nothing great. They were also saying that, listen, we're going to have to run your credit as well, which I was a little bit scared about because, you know, I thought that my credit wasn't great up to that point. The person said, you know, you have this for the down payment. Do you have anything for closing costs, or do you have anything for, you know, potentially other things that are going to pop up when you get the mortgage? And of course I didn't. So I left there, you know, with a sheet of paper saying that I could potentially get approved for a $275,000 loan, and it would be a 30-year mortgage where I would be paying pretty much $1,800 a month on that mortgage for 30 years. And I thought, damn, I'm kind of barely making payments on my $600 a month rental right now, so maybe I'm not ready right now. So after that meeting, I went and I checked my credit score. So I ran my credit for the first time, and I was kind of shocked at what I had saw. There was 3 dings on my credit, all from medical expenses that were sent to collections that I was unaware of, actually. These things kind of happen all the time if you go to an urgent care place because you're sick, which is kind of how I was treating healthcare at the time. Got caught up in it, I didn't pay the bills, and the collection notices never reached me. And lo and behold, I had a 633 credit score. You know, that's not bottom basement terrible. You know, I'm going and opening credit cards, maxing them out, and never paying them type numbers, but it's not good. 633 is not good. The first thing I had to do was clean up my credit. So I talked to the collections agents and got deals made with them to potentially pay off these things over time or have a settlement with some of these collection agencies. And then after that, I had to submit notices of payment to the credit bureaus to have that wiped from my record, which I eventually did, and I eventually got those you know, notices of clearance back. So that was the first step in the right direction. Then the second step was saving more money. What I realized that mortgage companies and, you know, the banks look at is your debt to income ratio. So the biggest thing I had to do was eliminate as much debt as possible and have more income, obviously. So it's easier said than done. But what I was able to do was get out from under a monthly car payment that was for a car that was a little bit too expensive for me. So I just eliminated the car payment completely by selling the car. And then I used some company funds for the video production business that I was running to buy a company car that was able to be dual purpose for both using it as a hauler for video production, but also as my everyday traveler. So with that off of my personal books, that was now a business expense. And again, not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, but I would highly recommend trying to open an LLC or getting out from under a car payment if you are potentially looking to purchase a home. it's better off that you don't have a monthly car payment, you sell that car, and you just drive a cheap beater for the time being, because cars really aren't great assets. They fall apart over time, and they're not going to be paying you in the long run. You can't necessarily rent out a car. I mean, you can technically with the apps nowadays, but these are things that are liabilities over time. So you want to do your best to eliminate these liabilities. So the next thing I did was I took saving out of my hands. And this is the tip that I would give everyone, is if you have to save money, you can't rely on yourself to do the transfers when you look at your bank account and you look at that money coming in. You have to automatically set that up with your bank, because you're gonna forget, you're gonna look at that number from your check and be like, oh, well, maybe I could use this for other stuff this month, I'll save next month. No, you need to take that decision completely out of your hands. You need to figure out the number, the lowest number that you can have a good quality of life. But you need to be frugal about this and pick a number that's low that gives you a large amount left over that you could potentially save to invest later. So what I did from there was I took the matter out of my own hands. Every other week when my paychecks would come in from my business, it would automatically debit out to both a savings account and an investment account. And eventually what I ended up setting up was a high interest savings account. Now, this was also key to what I called my passive income generation, is I found a bank, an online bank, that offered me the highest amount of interest on the money that I would deposit. With these normal Chase banks and that sort of things, when you open these checking accounts, they're gonna pay you pennies. You really need to go out there and look for a high interest savings account to put your money in that will be a safe haven for it. It's not gonna go up and down like a stock market will, and it will actually pay you some money back. So I took half of my savings and put it in a high interest savings account. The other half I put into the stock market. Now, I had to learn the hard way that I'm not necessarily a great investor, but there was some stocks that I picked that over time paid out a decent amount. And I ended up making about 5% of the investment that I put money into. And on top of that, I knew that I would need more money than what I had planned on saving. It's not just for the down payment, but it's for the afterwards stuff that you're not planning for, that you're gonna need that money for. So this was one of the reasons why I started taking garage sailing very seriously. I had the company truck now that you've seen, and I thought, you know what better way to utilize this truck than to start flipping larger items like furniture and appliances, that sort of thing. Over 2020, I really made it a point for every weekend going out, making these purchases, making these flips on OfferUp, and then taking all of the cash, and I actually deposited it into an Acorns account. And Acorns is another app that invests on your behalf, and you can control how aggressive you want your portfolio to be, but it also rounds up some of your purchases that you have on your debit card, for example. Like say you pay for something and it's $5.20. Well, it would round up that change to $6 and take that change and put it in your Acorns account and invest it for you. So I had pretty much 3 accounts of savings. I had my high interest savings account, I had my investment, which was in Robinhood with stocks and that sort of thing. And then I also had my Acorns account, which was all of the sales from my garage sales and roundups from any purchases I would make with my debit or credit card. So over the year, I finally got to my goal, which was $50,000 in savings. And I was ready to purchase a house. And I went out and got a real estate agent who was my friend and who came highly recommended from other friends who had used him. What you really want in a real estate agent is, the biggest thing, number one, is someone you can trust. And the second biggest thing is someone you know is going to be reliable and work with you quickly, because the real estate market does move extremely quick, and you need someone that is going to work fast with you with these deals that are going to move fast. So I made sure that the people that I worked with were on top of their game. Real estate was their number one thing that they were doing in their life. So our deal would be top of mind. So at this point, the markets had pretty much exploded in Phoenix and in Tempe. And the markets just in 2020, I believe, went up something like 15 to 18%. Now, a lot of people are gonna say that this isn't a great time to buy. Well, in my situation, it was the right time to buy for me. And you need to think of it like this. You need to think of it in long term. Could the market potentially go down in the next few years? Of course. As a matter of fact, it probably will go down. But these are the things that are out of your control. And you can only control what is happening in your life, your bank account, your plan for yourself, and you're looking to the future of how this house is gonna play out as a first-time home buyer. Well, this is the house that I know that I wanna own for at least 10, 15, possibly even 20 years. I could potentially be in this house for 20 years and be happy about it. And in 20 years from now, is it gonna matter what happened in 2021, 2022, 2023? Is it gonna matter then what happened with the housing market? By then, absolutely not. By then, the house will 100% be more valuable than what it is now. Even if there's a drastic crash right now, I guarantee you that in 10 years, this house will be definitely worth more money as an asset than it is now. So when it came to actually purchasing a house, I toured a couple of houses. A number of them I either looked at, they weren't a fit, out in the MLS, or I went to a couple of open houses, they weren't necessarily a fit. The few specific showings I went to were kind of defeating, because you would go, you would look at the pictures, you'd show up, and it wasn't exactly what you expected. So, it was either smaller or there was more problems that you weren't seeing at the time. After looking at the MLS and kind of not seeing what I wanted to see, I turned to my network and I let them know that, hey, I put it out there on social media that I'm buying a house, and could anyone help if they had any recommendations for houses that aren't necessarily listed at this point, or anything, any way that somebody could help me buy a house. And wouldn't you know, my business partner of all people hit me up one day and said, hey, I think my neighbors just put out a for sale sign on their lawn. Now, I was actually on my way to work at this point, and I thought, should I go after work, or you know what, screw it, I'm actually gonna turn around and go there right now. With the market the way it is, especially in Phoenix, Arizona, houses are getting gobbled up left and right. People are paying over ask at this point, which was unheard of a few years ago. And I knew that timeliness was a huge factor. So I turned around, came straight to this house, walked up and knocked on the door. Wouldn't you know, the owner was in the house, luckily, and I know people are kind of wary of answering their door. I was lucky enough that she did answer the door to the stranger at her door. And I said, hey, I saw the for sale sign. Are you selling your house? And she said, wow, that was quick. We put it up this morning. You're looking for a house, that's crazy. And I said, yeah, I'm looking for a house. Could I take a look around? She said, all right. So she walked me through the house. Her family was inside at that point, and I looked around, and it was everything I was looking for in a house. It was a shock, actually, that it was, when you find your house as a first-time home buyer, there's that moment where this is the house for you. There's just, I don't know, some sort of sixth sense feeling, but that was the feeling I got when I walked through this house. The backyard was impeccable, and it had a pool and a big yard, which I need for my two dogs. It gets hot in Arizona, you kind of need a pool, so that was an immediate huge plus. Walked through, there were some things that needed some work, but the layout of the house was great. There was a big master. with a walk-in closet, and it was just everything that I wanted. It was a 3-bedroom, two bath. When all was said and done, I walked out and said, listen, you know, I'm very interested in this house. I love this house. I tried not to seem too excited because, as you know, in our negotiation videos, not to show your excitement, but you know, I couldn't contain it at that point. I mean, this was a little bit different. I'm connecting to this person on a personal level, it seemed, because this was their baby too, because she was in this house for 10 years. So I knew that I needed to move fast and I needed to make a good impression. So I said, yeah, I'm completely interested in this house. She said that she was looking to sell it for $425,000. Now, at that point, I was only approved for $400,000. And by the way, you need to get a pre-approval. So when I got the pre-approval, it was an extremely smooth process because at this point, I had $50,000 saved up, more than enough to make a first-time home buying decision, and my credit was great. At this point, it was nearing 800. So a far cry from the 630 of a few years ago. So a little note on building my credit from 630 to 800 at this point. I followed a simple strategy of getting and using multiple, well, I used 2 credit cards pretty much. And I made all of my purchases through these credit cards, and I paid off the statement balance every month. So I treated my credit cards pretty much as my bank, and I made the statement balance payment every single month, and by doing that consistently, that built my credit score. And it showed that I was willing to carry a balance on my credit account, but I was also able to pay the statement balance every month. 2 things that credit companies and how they look at you as creditors are very, very useful to your credit score and building it. Let me see what I can do. Called my listing agent. I said, hey, just found the dream home. Can you please get me approved for $425,000 now, actually? He said, no problem, I'm on it. And then within a few hours, he had gotten me approved for $425,000. From there, I got my real estate agent, George, on the phone, and I said, George, you know, this is the dream house. Let me tell you, it's about to hit the market because the sign just went out, and this was pre-market, by the way. We need to pounce on this deal for right now. So he said, all right, let me, you know, call the list, or let me call their agent and see what's up, because again, that was another topic I had to broach with the sellers. Was when I was leaving, I was like, hey, do you want me to go directly through you, or do you want me to go through your real estate agent? And she said, no, go through the listing agent on the sign out front, you know, and if you can get a specific deal with the seller themselves, obviously you can cut out some of the closing costs and that sort of thing. So, but I mean, me being a first-time home buyer, I don't know what I'm doing, so I need the help of a real estate agent. I can't just go buyer to seller because I know there's all of this paperwork and all of this stuff that you need to do that I just wasn't prepared for. So it was best that we connected through our real estate agents and had them negotiate. So my real estate agent, George, called up the other agent, and pretty much he told him the situation, and the real estate agent pretty much said, get in line. I've gotten 20 phone calls about this house just today, and if you don't come with a very serious offer, you're gonna get buried. And after hearing this, I did what anyone in my situation I feel would do, and I made a very serious offer, which was what they wanted for the house. I said, you know what, I'm not trying to negotiate. I want this deal to close. I need it to close quickly because I'm looking to move within the next few months. So I got to get this ball rolling, and I don't want to let up on this opportunity. So I offered exactly what they were looking to get, $425,000. I said, let's just put in the offer at $425,000 and see where it goes. Not only did I do that, I wrote a letter to the current owners of the house. And I said, hey, look, this is my dream home. My business partner lives next door. You know, I used to live next door for years in college. I can see raising a family in this house. And, you know, I thank you for even allowing me to walk through the house and tour it after I knocked on the door. and I'm gonna take care of it just like you have the previous 10 years raising your family. So I made sure to kind of give it a personal touch, and that makes, I feel, all the difference when making these selling decisions as a seller, because I know my parents actually, for example, sold their house in Long Island, my personal house that I grew up in. They sold it the previous year to a new family that wrote them a letter and said, hey, we love this house and we want to raise a family. And they sold it to that family over someone else who was willing to pay more because they're emotionally invested in the house and they want to see it go to someone that they like. And same thing with my situation. I made sure that, I need to connect to these people on a personal level. We're almost going to be partners in the process of handing off the house. And I still message them today, even after I closed, and afterward, going through, I'm still talking to them and just giving them updates on the house remodel. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So I put in an offer on the house, and their only negotiation wasn't on price. It was on a couple of things. One was they wanted us to waive the inspection, which was a big eek moment. Waive the inspection, that is, in my mind, you're either hiding something or there's ulterior motives for why you would want to close on the sale so quickly. So I was very, very, very apprehensive about waiving the inspection. But, after speaking with my real estate agent and looking at what was going on with the house and all of what could potentially go wrong without doing an inspection. You have your roof. In Arizona, you need to have a great AC, potentially plumbing issues that you could potentially go across when purchasing a new home that you need to look into. And there's just a lot of unknown. You kind of have to look at these as compartmentalized financial downfalls or risks that you're taking. And when I looked at the house, they put on a brand new roof the previous year, completely new. They put on a new AC unit 2 years ago, brand new. Both of these things have warranties. They put on brand new windows that you see behind me. They're double pane glass, so they keep the insulation in the house cold during hot months in Arizona, which saves incredible amounts of money. And then they also had plumbing redone some years back, but they updated the plumbing, and sometimes the plumbing in the house can be 40, 50 years old. So the fact that it was under 10 years old and there was newer pipes. So with those things crossed off, I made an educated, risk, if you will, by waiving the inspection, because at the end of the day, I really did want to get it done. I would highly recommend not doing this in any other circumstance. I would definitely recommend getting a home inspection, paying for one, because there's a number of things that can go wrong in these home buying decisions. But for this particular situation, I felt it was right for me to make that jump and just to forego it. But in most home buying decisions, you really, really do want a home inspection to check these little things, because they can have an effect on the overall cost. After that, we were pretty much good to go, green light to sale. And from the day I toured the house to the closing day was, I think, 3.5 weeks. It was unbelievably fast. The appraisal was very quick, and I had people on my team that moved very quick. So the ball rolled very fast downhill towards the sale. And within our agreement, the previous owners did a lease back where they paid me the first month of rent because the ball rolled so quickly. They needed time to find a new home. So I agreed, because I was in a position where I could stay with my girlfriend, that I didn't need to necessarily get in the house immediately. So they paid me the first month. They paid me the cost of the mortgage for the first month. And with my down payment of 10%, it worked out to $42,500 plus the closing costs on top of that were an extra few thousand. And I got, lo and behold, a mortgage payment of, drumroll please, $1,800 for a 30-year mortgage, the same amount that I was originally quoted 6 years ago for a $275,000 house. 5 years later, because of my savings, because of my down payment, I'm paying the same amount, $1,800 a month, and I get a house that is worth definitely a lot more. And the Bones will get this house worth even more in years to come. So I was super excited, very elated by that whole process. And you know, when I finally was able to get into the house, there was a few things that I wanted to get done. Number one, I knew the whole house was tan. I wanted to update the paint, so luckily I had my family come out and help me, my dad and my stepmom, Marion. They both flew out, and for a solid week I took off work and we painted the whole house. And it was probably one of the most fun weeks I've had in years. And it doesn't seem like it's fun painting a house, but you know, when it's yours, it's different. Every day we got to work and hang out together, listen to music and paint was just a joy, complete joy to me. So after that, I hired some contractors to completely replace the floor. And you know, all of these things that I'm doing, I had to, even with the money I saved and even with the money I put down, I had to take out another loan of $10,000 to get these things done, because I also had the great fortune of being in another house and deciding, look, I'm gonna delay the move-in another month. So, you know, I waited the first 30 days because the previous owners were living in, and then I'm gonna wait another 30 days to do as many house improvements as possible. So, you know, because if I'm gonna redo the floors, what am I gonna move in and then a year or two down the road, move all of the furniture out, redo the floors, and then get in? No, I mean, at this point, it was worth the money to take a loan and get this done, because, you know, years down the road, I'm gonna thank myself, because now I have brand new wood-like porcelain tile all throughout the house, where previously it was patchwork. It was, in here there was just brown carpet everywhere, and in the bedrooms, brown carpet, and it was worn, it was torn, and in the rest of the house there was some okay tile, you know, some brown tile, but again, with the brown motif. Some of it was cracked. And so I decided to, you know what, take the dive and get all new tile in here. And I made some other little improvements here and there. We installed can lights, we were replacing the fans. And, but you know, when you get into a house, you want to do 1,000,001 things. My high recommendation is to list out all of the improvements that you want to make. Say, hey, what's most important, number one, and number two, what can I afford? I, at this point, cannot afford blowing out the wall, hiring an architect to come in here and approve designs to run a beam on a load-bearing wall. All words that I did not know were in my vocabulary. Load-bearing walls, what the hell is that? And I have never, ever been more broke, but this is different. You know, this is different being house broke or house poor, as they say, because number one, I'm house rich at this point. I have an asset, finally, and I'm going to be making this asset worth more money. Hell, I already did make this asset worth more money. I mean, my house appraised for $430,000. Now, after these floors and, you know, the paint job and the new installations with the fans and the lights, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this house appraised for $500,000. I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll see you next week. I'm posting every Wednesday, so see you then.